Welcome back to Business Foresight. This is the Expert Corner, and like I told you, my guest is a very powerful individual when it comes to branding. He is John Kinuthia, Chairman and CEO of Chief Executive Strategies and Solutions, CHESS.
Correct.
A very powerful name itself. Welcome to Business Foresight.
Thank you very much.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Asante sana.
First and foremost, tell us about CHESS. How did you come up with the name CHESS?
It was a very complex process
Yes.
of choosing a name. I wanted a name that will, first of all, tell the prospective client what we do and how we do it and what's the best we can do it for them. So first I thought about my prospective clients. These are chief executives. So the first part of the word chess, the C and the H and the E, CH is chief, and then executive is the E. So that's a prospective client. And then the second part talks about what do we do for those clients. We provide strategies and solutions. So you get chief executive, strategies and solutions.
Ah, very interesting. So now today, John, I want us to look at branding.
Yes.
Many people have gone wrong when it comes to branding. Very good products, very good companies, but the name itself
Yes.
will make you not want to step or set foot at their doorsteps.
Yes.
What does it take to come up with that powerful name when it comes to branding?
The three top mistakes people make, which also creates the three top solutions or how you fix that. Number one is they focus too much on themselves.
Yes.
So a lot of branding doesn't focus on the customer. So you should always focus on your customer who you want to sell or provide services or products to, and not yourself. Number two, a lot of people focus on the past and not on the future. So they focus on where they've come from. If you hear a lot of business names, here in Kenya you find business names being the names of the individuals who who have created the business, or something in their past that really struck them. So their best friend, the city back up country Ushago, where they come from, instead of where the future, which is where they are going. And then a lot of people lose the opportunity to talk about what they do and what they provide. So a classic or ideal branding, especially the name, should focus on who your client is and not yourself, number one. And then number two, where you're going, not where you're coming from. And then number three, what you do best, the products and the services that you offer. And again, it should not be so inwardly focused that the clients cannot identify with it. And of course with that, especially when you talk about names, and you find a lot of like partners, so you find a name that is a mix of two people's names, which is a classic partnership. And a lot of clients simply cannot identify with that. So
like
give them
Roy Jones.
Thank you. There you go. So people see that, and they can't really, they see you, they don't see themselves. The client should see themselves when they look at your branding. They should see where they want to go in future, not where you are coming from. And then of course it should talk about your products and your services, what you do best. Most importantly, the combination of those three should be memorable. It should be something that sticks in your mind the first time. A lot of business people who've been there, done that, know about the elevator speech. When you meet somebody in an elevator or a lift, and you want them to remember and you want it to stick in your mind, you only have a few seconds before the lift gets to their floor. What is that you must say to this person that they will forever remember? Striking and memorable, and it will haunt them, it won't leave their mind. So like in the case of chess, you find that it's chief executive, so that's a client, and then strategies and solutions. So that's what we do now. We provide strategies. The end game or the future is the solutions we provide for them. So in one word, I've captured the client, what we do for them, and the products we want to provide and where we are going in future. But as a name combined, chess is a strategy game. So when somebody sees chess or hears chess or looks at a name that is chess, they remember, they think about chess the game, which is strategy.
Which makes me ask you this one question.
Yes.
Do you play chess?
Yes, I do. I do play chess. I'm just teaching my kids.
Is it part of the inspiration behind the name chess?
It is part of the inspiration behind the name chess. I was looking, again, my focus was those three things: the client, what we do for them, what we provide for them, and then the solutions, the future, where we want to take them. I looked for a name that fits that. So I didn't make the game fit the company. I made what the company does, the client especially, and the solutions we provide, I made them all fit into the name chess. Now, I thought about what's the one thing I want somebody to think of about this kind of services we provide. It's all about strategy, and chess was the ideal. So I merged the chess game with the initials for Chief Executive Strategies and Solutions. And of course, it's memorable. The other thing, it creates questions. A lot of people come and ask me, is it about chess the game? Are you a chess player? Do you do this?
Like when you told me about chess, I was like, okay, now, which chess are we looking at? Are we looking at chess the game, or
yes,
what are we looking at?
So part of it is supposed to be something that creates curiosity. Your branding should create curiosity. It should make somebody want to walk through that door or want to meet you and ask you that one question. Is it about chess the game? What is chess? Are you chess? Do you play chess? What is chess? What does it have to do with business? So it creates an opportunity for me to tell them about the company, about our clients, about our solutions, about our strategies, what we do for a living. So the branding should be curious. It should make somebody stop and think. It should make somebody, in that stopping and thinking, they remember it. And most of them don't forget it if your branding is right.
How do you create this curiosity with this brand now? Because like you said,
yes,
people look at their past and forget about their future.
Yes.
People look at themselves,
yes,
and not the client.
Correct.
How do you make this name stick
yes,
very well, that someone goes somewhere and remembers this name?
The best way to make it stick, the best way to make it come out of their mouth and stick in their mind is give it one word or 2 words maximum. Give it something they identify with in normal life. Anytime I do branding for a client, I never choose a brand identity that is new in the market. I don't know if you've seen a scenario where a musician goes onto stage for the first time.
Yes, I have.
Sometimes they are called rookies, sometimes they are called an opening act, sometimes they are called open mic, right? Now, when somebody, especially if it's a song, and somebody wants to sing to the audience, the classic mistake they do is to sing a song that they've written that nobody has ever heard. The problem is the audience cannot sing it with you. So it would be best, especially if you have the flexibility to do so, to sing a song, even if it's a hymn or something people have actually heard before, but do it in a beautiful way. I attended a show recently for the first time, and I remember the one guy that really nailed it is a guy who did it in a way that everybody in the audience identifies with. Now, in business, your audience is the client, not the client you have today, the bird in hand. It's the one that's in the bush, right? And the point is, for you to get them to come to you, you must connect with them. To connect, there must be something familiar.
Which doors or what levels have chess taken you to?
Very good question. Excellent question. So when I came back from the States, which I spent 12 years in the States, and the background is important because it tells you what you offer, what you bring to the table. When I was in the States, I graduated from being a consultant. I worked with Pricewaterhouse here originally, which is the original PW. Then later we merged with PricewaterhouseCoopers. At the time I went to the States, there was this big scandal called the Enron scandal, which forced the split of consulting from audit for all big 4 type consulting firms or audit firms. So in my case, I was a technology and projects consultant, and PwC Consulting was bought by IBM. So that compelled me to go individual or solo or independent in the market, because at the time I wanted to retain my independence. I didn't want to seem like I was actually an independent consultant but working for a specific brand, and a customer had to choose between different brands. So there was that challenge. So I decided to go independent. Long story short, I went and was once hired on a contract basis by one of the top consulting firms in the world. It's called Capgemini Group. They had bought Ernst & Young Consulting in the same fashion. So they were incubating my practice, where I specialize in the US, to match their capabilities in Europe. So I did that for a while, rose up the ranks, became a senior director and a national champion in the country. I later went into industry, became a chief information officer for a $1 billion corporation with 70 operating companies. So went into the marketplace and exercised what I did as a consultant. And then ultimately I formed my own consulting company. When I came back home, I had two challenges. One, I had to learn the local market. You should not assume how I left it in 2001 is how it is today. So that was my first challenge. After 12, 13 years of being away, you have to relearn what the market has come to be. And then number two, once I learned the market, so to solve that problem, I actually gave out free consulting for 6 months so that I would learn how it's done here. And I learned valuable lessons, exceedingly valuable lessons. And then number two, which is most important and which answers your question, I had to figure out my place. With all the skills I bring to the table, with all the experience that I bring to bear, what's the best way that I can both have an impact in my country and in my society and in my sphere of influence, and at the same time, bring to the market an excellent brand, an excellent company. So I actually became a CEO for hire. So a CEO for hire, many people ask me, what's that?
I'd ask you that.
You'd ask me the same questions,
I'd
yeah.
ask the same question.
Yes. So a CEO for hire is somebody who on a contract basis becomes a CEO for a company for a fixed period of time with a specific objective that is usually strategic. So in my case, my last client, for example, was preparing to sell the company. So I come in for 6 months, I restructure the company to bring it to world-class standards, I beef up the company so that it's good for sale, I put all the departments that should be there, line up all the staff, the structures, the processes, everything that are the foundations of a good business. After 6 months, I exit and the strategic objectives are achieved. Having done those three things, I quickly found my niche. I thought about it and said, I've been a chief executive for a $1 billion corporation in the US. As clients, I've had CEOs, CIOs, CFOs as my key clients. Most importantly, now speaking as an expert. I was invited to speak at the CIO 100 as a keynote speaker. I was invited to speak at the Africa HR conference, Africa-wide here in Nairobi. And I was at the WTO. So with time, I found that the best use for my skills is to consult for chief executives and help them bring their business to world-class standards. So find out what their key problem is, give them strategies to overcome the problem, and provide a solution to that. So that's how Chief Executive Strategies and Solutions was born. So my key clients are usually chief executives. It doesn't have to be a private company. It can be in the public sector. So if you're a president, if you're a governor, if you're an executive of any organization, public, private, NGO, you're my client if you're a chief executive or are an aspiring chief executive. Yeah.
All because of the name, the powerful name. Now, you've made the biggest mistake. Named your company or your product and yourself.
Yes.
You want to recover from this mistake.
Yes.
You want to rebrand.
Yes.
How do you come down here from this biggest mistake that you made 5 years ago?
Yes.
To rebranding to a new company?
Perfect question. $1 million question.
Thank you.
Learn from the best. A lot of the top businesses, when they are either involved in a scandal or they're involved in something that tarnishes their brand or their name. I mentioned the Enron scandal. Behind or as a key player in the Enron scandal was actually a Big Four audit and consulting firm. The first thing they did after that scandal, they rebranded themselves, and today they are one of the top brands. In fact, most people cannot connect or reconnect that scandal. Top brand with the scandal, right? Everybody knows it in business, right? So the company was Arthur Andersen, and they rebranded it to Accenture. Of course, they re-strategize their partnerships and all that, so it's not as simple as that. But so the key is anything that happens to your company, the top companies, what they do, the first thing, and they know it, the name is everything. So people, when they think about that name, that brand, they remember the scandal. They remember the bad publicity. So the first thing they do is they reinvent themselves and come up with a new name. So Arthur Andersen became Accenture. Do the same thing, rebrand. Think about those three things that I said. Think about your clients, your potential customers, the people you're reaching out to. Make sure they're part of that branding. Think about the future, not about the past. So even about the scandal, it's about the same. You want to erase the past and create a new future. Yes. So think about that future. And then think about what you actually do for those clients in the future. Think about the products, the services you provide for them. Put those three together. And then if it's too complex, find an easy way. It's sort of double branding. So then the longer name represents what you do. Chief Executives, Strategies, and Solutions. So that tells the whole story. But now find a palatable way to combine and compress it into something Preferably one word. That is, in my case, I use acronyms, which I love because they're easy to remember. So I recommend double or triple branding. So talk about the client, talk about the product, talk about where they're going and what you want to achieve. Find the acronym or the first letter of each of those words, bring it together, and then the third level is that word in itself should identify with what you're trying to do in that. So for Chief Executive Strategies and Solutions, it is chess, but chess is a strategy game. So I want them to remember strategy, I want them to visualize that. Very hard to forget.
As we wind up,
Yes.
as powerful as you are,
Yes.
with the inspirational words that you're giving me right now,
Yes.
look into that camera, and whoever is seated back at home and listening to this, watching this conversation and listening to what you're saying, give them that one word
Yes.
that will make them not make that mistake when branding, or if they've made it, how will they recover from that mistake that they've made?
Yes.
Yes.
Think about your business in the future, 10 years from now. Think about yourself being so successful that you've achieved every single dream that you wanted to achieve. Paint a picture of what that business is like in those three aspects. Who is your ideal client, and what kind of client have you attracted to be most successful and being the top in the industry? Number two, think about the end game. What is that that you do for that client? What is the service that you provide for that client? What is the solutions that you give to those clients in the market? And what are you bringing to the marketplace? Create your branding from the combination of those three things. Your prospective clients when you're most successful, what you do for them, and where you want to take that business in the future, the end game, what you'll have provided that fixes the problems for them. Create, write it as long as it is, create that name, and then find a way to shorten it so that it's actually palatable, and then preferably move it around so that the first letters of that future business name, that future client, that future end game are combined to form a word that speaks to what your business is all about. If that one word can capture the essence of your business, then you've done it for the client. And make it easy to remember, easy to pronounce, easily palatable, like food, something that goes in without challenge. And then the client has three things to work on. They have the name that describes them as a client, what you do for them, the end product and solution in the future, and then they have that one name that captures it and helps them to remember, and yet even that name represents those individual words in your business name, and the letters of them combine into this one word. When you have that sort of triple level branding, your client will not forget that branding. They'll see themselves and not you, and then they'll see what you can do for them and the products and the services that you can offer to them. That's a classic and perfect and ideal branding.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kinuthia. I wish I was getting into any sort of business. I'd take into account what you just said, told us.
Remember me and call me if you can't figure it out for yourself.
I sure will.
Yes, thank you very much.
Need I to add any other thing on top of what he has just said? I told you he's a very powerful guest. Only happens right here on Business Foresight, the Expert Corner. I've been your host, Ronaldo Diambo. Until next week, do have a lovely viewership.